So take America's example in World War I. So Woodrow Wilson won his elections in 1916, mainly thanks to the fact that he kept out of the war, as they would say in America. And Americans during World War I had more than enough reasons to get engaged in war against Germany, but only after, not until Germans actually made them to get engaged in war, because Germans behaved extremely stupidly, at that time. And even then, Woodrow Wilson had to come up with some grand design, like Wilson's 14 points, which was about, bringing democracy to the whole world, finishing world, bringing free trade and freedom to everyone. So World War I for America became some kind of a crusade. Why crusade? Because otherwise American public opinion would not understand. Take World War II, once again, more than enough reasons, even more reasons to get engaged war, because now it's Nazi Germany, not simply a German empire during World War I. But once again, Franklin Roosevelt is unable to declare war on Germany until Hitler himself declares war on America, which was a pretty stupid thing to do for Hitler, definitely. Now, more recent examples. In both cases, as we see, American government is pretty willing to get engaged in war because they have more than enough geopolitical reasons to do it, but they are pretty careful about public opinion. Now take some more interesting examples from recent past. Intervention in Somalia in '93. In this case, Americans, they hardly have any geopolitical pragmatic interest to get engaged there. So what happened was what later was described as CNN effect. Public opinion was so much dismayed with what was going on in Somalia that finally American government had to intervene there. And intervention was disastrous, as we know. But then American armed forces, they withdrew pretty quickly. Another interesting example, 2003. Invading Iraq, pretty stupid thing to do if you ask me. In this case, I think American public opinion was pretty much against the war against Iraq, but the government made a decision. And as we know, it was even more disastrous, I guess, than intervention in Somalia. Because, why? Because American government went against public opinion, or because American government simply did not understand basic things about the region, about Iraq. The answer is still unknown, I guess. Now that's about America, about influence of public opinion in liberal democracy. As we see, mostly American government takes it into account, definitely public opinion, while shaping foreign policy and making some drastic decisions like going to war. Totalitarian countries, authoritarian countries. Soviet Union invades Afghanistan 1979. Hardly anyone in Soviet Union, including myself, knew anything about Afghanistan. We were told only later that, our army, Soviet army, they have to do their international duty in Afghanistan. That's why we invaded. Authoritarian country like Russian Federation. In Russian Federation, we all agree that public opinion can be manipulated, and not only public opinion, but polls also can be manipulated, and pretty well. And if you want to know who makes Putin personally, who makes Russian government unhappy, just watch Russian TV. Georgia made Russian government unhappy since 2005. Georgia became #1 enemy. Ukraine then became #1 enemy. Then overnight, when Montenegro entered NATO, Montenegro became #1 enemy. Once again, hardly anyone in Russia except tourists who went to Montenegro, rich Russian tourists who went to Montenegro, hardly anyone knew anything about Montenegro. One day they wake up, they turn on TV, they discover that Montenegro now is #1 enemy, not Georgia anymore, not Ukraine anymore. Now that's difference, once again, between authoritarian countries and liberal democracies. Now take Georgia. Let's downgrade the scale further. Georgia is neither democracy nor authoritarian country. It's something between what they call hybrid regime. So in this case, I think public opinion may influence foreign policy. Well, when we talk about Georgian policy, there is no comparison, of course, between Georgia and Russia and Georgia and America. We are much smaller, and all we can do is to react to something, definitely. We don't intervene anywhere, even in our territories, as we know, not anymore. And so, the only interesting case which I remember when actually public opinion maybe have affected our foreign policy is that when Georgian Dream came to power in 2012, they said that public opinion is in favor of improving relations with Russia, and then we saw what happened. Georgian Dream actually, in a way, actually succeeded in de-escalating tension with Russia, which I think was quite interesting. I think was kind of a success story. But once again, let's ask ourselves: did Georgian Dream do that because public opinion was in favor of improving relations with Russia, or because simply Bidzina Ivanishvili was in favor of doing this? I think both, combination of both factors, public opinion and Bidzina Ivanishvili's policy. That's it, I think. In hybrid regimes like Georgia, public opinion, I don't think public opinion can be manipulated like in Russia. But on the other hand, in our case, I don't think that public opinion may have decisive influence on policy shaping, including foreign policy shaping. And what makes me wonder sometimes is that why doesn't the Georgian government, it applies to, it includes both current and previous ones. Our leadership always has a problem with understanding how actually public opinion can influence foreign policy in the West. Why I'm saying that? You will know that we have some kind of a problem with Germany. Germany blocked, in 2008, Germany blocked membership action plan for Georgia in Bucharest NATO summit in Bucharest. And now it looks like that, once again, Germany is kind of a small obstacle for us for getting visa-free regime with the European Union. Our statesmen, once again, starting from Saakashvili's government, including this and finishing with this one, they try to engage German government. Sometimes they try to engage German government not in Berlin but in Brussels. Another stupid thing to do. But when you see that you cannot actually influence German foreign policy agenda, because for German policy, for German foreign policy, I'm afraid Georgia is quite, let's say, unimportant. Then maybe you try to go and influence German public opinion about Georgia somehow. Engage German journalists, engage German think tanks and German non-governmental organizations. Unfortunately, hardly anyone has a good understanding of this reality in the West. When you're a small country like Georgia, you have some problem, serious security problems, and the only way of survival is to get integrated into the West as deep as possible in NATO and the European Union, and someone is against it. Then you have to influence someone back there in their backyard, their public opinion. You may tell me that German public opinion doesn't care about Georgia either, not only German policymakers. But I think that's the only way to do something, the only way out for countries like Georgia. So why I'm saying this, in Georgia we may have this problem with our democratic institutions. We may have a problem with democracy, and which means that public opinion sometimes can be ignored. At the same time, unfortunately, we have also a lack of competence. We have a lack of understanding of how actually foreign policy can be influenced and shaped in the West, which is crucial. This understanding is crucial for our country. That's my point. So once again, as I apologize at the beginning, I don't know very much about how polls are manipulated. And Georgian Dream, for example, has accused both NDI and IRI that polls are manipulated because both engage local Georgian firms for it. I don't know much against. Maybe Zura knows about it because he worked with NDI, as I remember, himself very, very closely. Thank you.